Well, my editing skills are crap. But can the same thing be said about Ghostbusters? Stick around and find out. All right. So I am not like a big fan of the original Ghostbusters movies. I definitely enjoyed them, especially the first one. But I didn't have any particular feelings about it being an all-female cast. My initial thought was, oh, I hope that they're going to get great performers, and it's not just like, let's get an all-female cast to check off demographic boxes. But when I found out who the cast lineup was, I was like, oh, dude, this could be really funny. So that's kind of the attitude I went into with this one. Following a ghost invasion of Manhattan, paranormal enthusiasts Aaron Gilbert and Abby Yates, nuclear engineer Gillian Holtzman, and subway worker Patty Tolan band together to stop the otherworldly threat. So I basically went into this, not expecting the same feel of the original movies and just kind of open to a different take on the same basic concept. Now, I'm also no indicator, I should be very clear, of what people will find funny. So this review is not going to be valuable to you for that, I don't think, because I don't laugh at the same things other people laugh at. I did not think Guardians of the Galaxy was funny. I don't think most of the Marvel movies are hardly ever funny, except for the first, the Iron Man movies, I would say, of those Marvel movies, but the others are all just trying to kind of capture that, and all seems kind of forced to me. I prefer really random, weird, offbeat humor, and I haven't quite figured out what my sense of humor is, but it often that my funny bone is not tickled by movies that are intending to. So again, I'm no indicator on what you will probably think is funny. As far as the story, the script, the pacing, that kind of stuff, the story is fine in this movie. It's the same basic skeleton as the original movie. Disgraced scientists are turned into kind of heroes of the story as their far-fetched theories become reality after all. It's a much more humor-based movie than the original film. Even though we categorize those as comedies, they still had a lot of grounded support characters that kind of made the quirky ensemble cast, more contrasted and displayed as the quirky characters that they were. In this movie, almost every character, even like the random person they run into on the street or the subway and they just got one scene with them and then it's over, that person is still kind of like a character. They're written to be funny. They're written to be weird and unusual, there are a few characters in this movie that are, straight, but very few. And so it left me feeling like a little bit overdosed on the humor for my tastes. I think for the humor to stand out and be more striking and surprising and funny to me, it needs to be contrasted with something that is accepted, that it's more relatable as being the world that we live in, And because there are so few grounded, you might say, characters, the climax held no tension for me at all in this movie. I actually found the last 30 minutes pretty boring. Without establishing the stakes for me or giving me a sense of danger, it just felt like a special effects filled waiting game until the heroes won. Now, I will say that I chuckled frequently throughout this movie. So there were definitely a lot more things that I laughed at than I expected to. But the last 30 minutes, like I said, kind of fell flat for me. I felt like it was a solid sci-fi comedy, but it also had many jokes that, for my taste, suffered from, I guess, what I might call SNL-itis, where the jokes seemed to me to go on too long, or it just felt kind of forced. I don't know. It was an even mix of hits and misses for me in the humor department, but that's still pretty good, considering that I don't laugh at most comedies. So take that for whatever it would mean to you. As far as the cast goes, it's a solid ensemble cast. I knew I was going to enjoy Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy. Kate McKinnon. Now, she was a new face to me, and I really enjoyed her weird, offbeat character. It made me want to, get on IMDb and find out what else she's done that got her this role, and want to check that out, and then look forward to what else, she might be doing. And then you had Leslie Jones, who I think was solid as a representative of New York urban culture, but she didn't stand out to me in the same way that the other three did. So hopefully they'll give her something a little bit more interesting to work with with in the next movie. There's, as far as the stunts and visuals go, there's lots of CG ghosts and sci-fi energy flying around, and so that's cool to me. I always enjoy watching that kind of stuff. The visual design of ghosts reminded me of the kind of neon slash blacklight based look of the ghosts in Disneyland's Haunted Mansion ride, if you've ever been on that. So it's a little too colorful for me to creep me out. There was some surprisingly fun and good. I don't want to say good looking, but appropriate wire work. It looked appropriately funny, I should say, when it was whipping Melissa McCarthy around in the air. But then other wire work that looked surprisingly awkward to me when used on Chris Hemsworth, and that's because it had that kind of classic bow-legged look where the legs are kind of apart, a little bit, bow-legged. That kind of looks like, yeah, my legs are bowed right now because I've got a harness strapped on, and I'm trying to look comfortable and like it is very natural for me to be flying through the air, and yet there is just something not quite right about the way I'm suspended here, So that was a little surprising, especially since it featured Chris Hemsworth, who, well, maybe he didn't have a lot of wire work. He probably had more CG stuff with taking off and landing as Thor. But anyway, it would have been nice for that to be a little bit. I like good-looking wire work. I much prefer it to other forms of getting people flying. But it's the performer and the way they do it. It has to look right. But when it does look right, love me some good wire work. Let's see here. As far as relevance, is there anything of philosophical, moral, or spiritual significance that might bring about worthwhile thought or conversation during or after watching this movie? I really doubt this movie is going to trigger serious thoughts of much real worth. It's a comedy. It's meant to be a comedy. It's not meant to try, I don't think, get you to think about things in life or whatever. It's a movie about ghosts, but many of them are, although half of the ghosts you see or more are presumed to be dead people, nearly an equal number of the ghosts that we see in this movie look just like fantasy monsters, So you could almost see it as a movie that's not really about people in the afterlife, but just weird, fantasy creatures from another dimension. I mean, it's hard to see any serious suggestions about the nature of life after death being put forth in this story. I don't think that's the intent, and I don't think that's not what came across for me. Now, I have no idea what your tastes are, but if I were a time traveler, I'd travel back in time and say, hey, Pater, wait for Redbox on this one. You're going to get more chuckles than you usually do from most comedies, but you're not a die-hard Ghostbusters fan, and this won't be a fantastic experience for you, just a solid one that will hopefully be improved upon in the sequel that it probably deserves for what it does do right. Meanwhile, if you want a more dynamic blend of both humor and genuine scares mashed up against each other in a ghost-hunting, spectacle-filled movie, the flick you're looking for is called The Frighteners, from director Peter Jackson, which still holds up today because of the ahead-of-its-time visual effects. It's still in your DVD library, so why not fire that up right now instead? All right, this one's rated PG-13 for supernatural action and some crude humor. Those are my thoughts. I'd love to get yours in the comments below, especially, I'd also like to know where you're coming from in terms of your experience as a Ghostbusters fan or not. Also, this Monday, July 18th, visit spiritblade.com to get for free the Legacy Edition of our Spirit Blade audio drama. Starting Monday, that's going to be available for a limited time at spiritblade.com. And then check out the other stuff that we have for you there. That's a fun and free way to kind of support this channel. Please do like, share, and subscribe if you like this video and want to share it with anybody and want more videos like it. Then that's how we make that happen. And then I hope that you visit, where's my thing? Boom! christiangeekcentral.com for a ton more content and community as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. I never have this button ready. Dang it. Come on now.